Are you tired of fingering the soil or lifting the pots up to see if your plants need watering? This is a video for you. Oi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Daniel. Today I would like to talk about growing plants in water. If you expand your collection too much and sometimes feel a bit of a burnout, you don't want to see taking care of your plants as a chore, and you want to appreciate the beauty of your collection, this is a video for you. In this video, I will talk about my experience of growing plants in water, how to take care of plants in water, what's the pros and cons of doing that, and at last I will show you how to transfer a plant from soil to water. If you can see from my background, I grow my plants in pure water for almost 4 months now. It is not with lacquer, it is not with pond, just water. I mainly grow aroids, which means Anthurium, Alocasia, Monstera, Philodendrons in water, and there are some plants that I am scared of putting in water, let's say Calathea. You may wonder, can I put this plant or this plant in water? I think the general rule is to see if your plants can be propagated in water or not. If your plant can be propagated in water, which means that your plant is quite likely to be grown in water. Talking about how to take care of plants in water, it is super easy and stress-free. I have these clear containers, jars or bottles to use as a pot, and then I will put my plants in them with water and nutrients. Once I see the water level dropped and I can see some roots exploded, I will top up with water, just water. From my experience, I will change the water in the container once a month, no matter how many times I've topped it up. By doing so, I can avoid algae growing within the container and along the roots, and also I can supply nutrients back in the water and keep it fresh. I don't really measure the pH value of the water. I know it is not a really good thing for growing plants in hydroponic setting, but so far I didn't observe any plants dead yet, so I guess it is still a good thing. And for fresh cuttings or like imported plants, I'll just put it in water without any nutrients to reduce the stress for the plants. The next thing we have to talk about is nutrients, as it is quite important for our plants to grow, to thrive right. You may think, can I just reuse the one that is for soil plants? And I think the answer is no. You have to get a specific nutrients for growing plants in hydroponic setting. There are so many brands doing nutrients for hydroponic settings, so you don't have to be worried about it. And there are so many different kinds of nutrients. Let's say this one is specific for root growth, this one is specific for young plants, this one is for blossom, this one is specific in some kind of nutrients which promote certain growth. There's so many things, right? And it can make you confused. But I think for beginners like me, I'll just use the one that is for general use, so to avoid any confusion, okay? The most important point here is to find a brand that you like, because there's so many choices and the price can vary a lot. Some can cost just like not too much, some can cost a lot, some are rich in certain nutrients, some may be like just for general use. Make sure you find one that you like or you think that is suitable for my collection. I find out that usually the nutrients for hydroponic setting is slightly more expensive than the one for soil, but remember, each month you don't need to use too much of it. For mine, I've checked the content of it and the instruction of it. For like a 2-liter bottle, I have to use 1 teaspoon of the nutrients only. And I find out that the content of the nutrients in my fertilizers is actually quite high. So after I diluting the solution from the fertilizers in the 2-liter bottles, when I fill it up with my plants container, I will fill it up with half of the fertilizers and then the remaining with just water. So I further dilute it when I do my chores. I have grown my plants in water for almost 4 to 5 months, and I still got a lot of the fertilizers left, so you don't have to be too worried about the price of the fertilizers. Remember, you have to check the instruction of your fertilizers, which one goes in first, which one go after, and then make sure you use the right amount in certain amount of water, dilute it properly. After talking about the general care and the nutrients part, and then we now move to the good side of growing plants in water. I think the first really important point here is it is super low maintenance. Unlike any other substrates like soil, lacquer, pond, I don't have to check consistently whether my substrate is dry enough to water. I only have to have a quick look of my collection because they're in a clear container, and I only need to observe whether the water level is too low. If it's too low, I have to top it up with water, and that's it. I don't need to fingering my substrate or like lifting the pot up to see if it's too light. I just need to see and top up. The only chore here I have to really do is to change the reservoir completely in the beginning of every month to make sure it is fresh and rich in nutrients. Don't worry about it, it is not stressful at all, just changing the water, and I may do a video about it in the future, so stay tuned to it. This allows me to have more time to fall in love with my collection. I can see which one is growing well, which one is thriving, which one may need a little bit more attention to it, and I don't see taking care of my plants as a chore anymore, and I won't feel like a burnout that easily. The second good thing is about the money. It is so much cheaper to grow plants in water. Because I'm growing plants in a water reservoir with nutrients, I don't need to buy any other plant supplies. Let's say coco coir, orchid barks, perlite, pumice, active charcoal, worm casting, pond lacquer. I don't need any of those, although I still got a big bag of perlite and I don't know how to use it. And it would save a lot of money from buying those supplies. Growing plants in water also means that I don't need to buy extra nursery pots and do extra repotting. If you're growing plants in soil, which means that from time to time you have to see if your plants is rebounded or not. If it is rebounded, that means that you need to upsize the nursery pot, and it means that you may need to buy bigger nursery pots. You may end up having so many nursery pots at home, and don't forget the decorative ones if you want to make it slightly more aesthetic. What I'm doing now is to reuse the good old decorative pots as like the catch pot for my reservoir, and I also reuse the soft drinks bottles, any sauce jars, any sort of container that could hold my plants and the water reservoir. I'll use them as the nursery pots, which in the long term can definitely save you some money from buying all those plant supplies. The only thing I have to spend money on is the nutrients, as I said, but don't worry about it. Although it is a bit pricey in the beginning, every month you only need a really small amount of it, and I only change the reservoir once a month, so in the long term it won't cost me too much money compared to growing plants in soil. After talking about the good things, now let's talk about something that may be a problem for growing plants in water. The first thing is, it is not suitable for crawlers. You may grow crawlers in water, but in the long term you can't just leave it in the water. In case you don't know, crawlers, like its name, loves to crawl on the surface. The examples are Philodendron gorgeosum, Philodendron Di Medawo, Philodendron luxurians, and maybe Philodendron pastisanum. They are all crawlers which loves to crawl on the surface. Of course, you can do water propagation to your crawlers. They can be water propagated and you can see roots growing in water. But when they're really growing, the roots can't find anything to grab on, and you'll just leave the stem floating on the water. And I'm not sure it is really that good for crawlers to grow like that. The soilless, carefree solution for crawlers is to grow them in a semi-hydro medium, which means lacquer or pond or any other you can find. All you need to do is leave your plant on the surface of your substrate. And remember, crawlers are not like climber. They will love a surface to crawl on. And once you put it on the surface of a substrate, and then the roots will start to grow and they will start to grab on your substrate. And then your plants will start growing. And that would be a perfect situation. But at first you may find the problem is the plants can't really support itself because the roots haven't attached to anything yet. You may find a stick to support part of the patio so the plants won't collapse. And don't worry, in the future they will find a way to grab to the substrate and then they will start crawling on the surface. The second problem I've encountered is about algae. Because I'm using clear container and I have a water reservoir with nutrients, and also I got plenty of sunlight, algae will grow in my container. I'm not sure whether it is harmful to my plants, but it's just not looking nice because it will have like green bits around my roots or along the container. So my solution is to change the water really regularly. I know that if I leave my plants more than a month, algae would definitely grow. So I set my schedule is changing the water once a month to prevent algae from growing. The second way to avoid algae is to find something to cover the container so it is not directly exposed to the sunlight to prevent the algae from growing. The third way is super easy but super lazy, is to not use a clear container. But if you're not using a clear container, make sure you keep an eye on the water level because you can't really see how much water left. The last problem I have is it may get a bit floppy. For climbers, I'll grow them alongside with a plank so it essentially provides some support to the plant. In the future, I may do a video about growing plants on planks, so if you don't want to miss it, make sure you subscribe to my channel. But for plants like Anthurium, Alocasia, you don't need to use planks to help nurturing them because the stem itself is strong enough to support themselves. But without planks or without a stake, That means that your plants can get quite floppy because it can't support itself in a water reservoir. My solution here is to find a container that has a narrower neck, so plants like anthuriums, alocasias, the stem of them can have a way to lean on the neck of the bottle, neck of the containers, and it won't get too floppy in the water reservoir. I'm not sure is it the best solution, so if you know any other better way to prevent the floppy problem, tell me in the comment section, please. After talking about all the things you need to know about growing plants in water, now I will show you how to transfer a plant from soil to water. And my lucky candidates here are my Philodendron Pink Princess and my Alocasia Silver Dragon. I have two different kinds of plants and you can see how it works out exactly. So I have my Philodendron Pink Princess and my Philodendron Silver Dragon here. I'll transfer them to water. The first thing I have to do is remove the plant from the soil. Just remove as much soil as you can. This one is pretty easy because it's not too root bounded. This is fine for me now because I removed much of the soil and you may still see some soil attached to the roots, but it is not a problem. Later we will rinse it off. Here is my Silver Dragon. We will do the same, just take the plants out from the pot. Because it is a Alocasia, let's see can I find any combs for it. These two are not propagation, so they've been in soil since I get them and I never really report them. So no combs for this one yet, but you can see some is growing out from it. And now we're in the kitchen, ready to rinse off the remaining soil from the roots, and I got two clear containers. So this is the Pink Princess. This is how it looks like now. Although you can still see some soil attached to the roots, but it will be fine because it will be in the water. So I'll put it in the container with just water. For the first couple of weeks, I won't put any nutrients in it because it is still getting used to the water. And now it's for my Alocasia Silver Dragon. And then put it in the container with just water. So these two plants are in water now from this soil. Looks so much nicer, isn't it? So you see, it is not that difficult to transfer a plant from soil to water, and I hope that this video could help you understand more about how to grow plants in water, which is so much more cost effective and stress-free. In the future, I may do videos about plant chores of growing plants in water, how to change the reservoir in the beginning of the month, and I may do a video about how to grow plants on the plank. So if you don't want to miss them, make sure you subscribe to my channel. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure you give it a like. I will see you real soon. Bye!